The morning began quietly, like a slow breath. The sky outside my window was soft and pale, a mix of blue and silver, with thin clouds floating above the roofs. The city was still half asleep, but I was already awake, packing my small bag and getting ready for the day. It was early, the kind of early when the streets are empty and the air feels fresh and cool. I like mornings like this. They always felt like a new beginning, as if the world was gently opening its eyes. I locked the door behind me and stepped outside. The air was crisp and light. Somewhere in the distance, a bird sang, a single sound in the quiet morning. The pavement was still wet from the night rain, and small puddles reflected the pale sky. The station was only a short walk away. As I walked, I could smell the faint scent of bread from a bakery nearby. The warm smell mixed with the cool air, and for a moment I felt both awake and calm. The streets were slowly coming to life. A few cars passed, a cyclist rode by, and an old man walked his dog down the street. When I reached the station, it was already buzzing with quiet energy. People were walking with purpose, some carrying coffee cups, others with suitcases or backpacks. The big digital clock above the platform showed 6:45. My train would leave in 10 minutes. I like train stations in the morning. They always felt full of stories. Every person there was going somewhere. Some to work, some to meet family, some maybe just traveling for no reason at all. I wondered where they all came from, what kind of days they would have. The train arrived with a soft metallic sound, wheels against tracks, doors sliding open, a warm breath of air from inside. I stepped in and found my seat near the window. The carriage was half full. Across the aisle, a man in a gray coat was reading a newspaper in front of me. A woman with red hair held a cup of coffee and looked out the window. A few seats away, a young student was listening to music, his head moving slightly with the rhythm. The train started to move, slowly at first, then faster. The station began to slide away behind us. The city outside looked sleepy. Empty streets, closed shops, windows glowing faintly with early light. As we left the city, the buildings grew smaller, then disappeared completely. The view opened into wide fields, green and gold under the morning sun. Thin mist lay close to the ground like a blanket that hadn't yet lifted. I leaned my head against the window and watched as the world passed by. There was something peaceful about trains. The steady movement, the low hum of the wheels, the rhythm that matched your thoughts. The sky brightened. A few clouds drifted lazily across it, catching the first warm light. The fields were divided by small roads and rows of trees. Sometimes a house appeared, standing alone among the fields, its windows shining in the sun. We passed a small village. Red roofs, a church tower, few people walking their dogs. Smoke rose from a chimney, curling into the cool air. I imagined how quiet life must be there, how different from the rush of the city I was heading to. The woman with the coffee took a sip and smiled faintly, maybe at a thought, maybe at nothing at all. The man with the newspaper turned a page slowly. The student put his head against the window and closed his eyes. Everyone seemed calm, caught in the soft rhythm of the journey. The train slowed down as we approached another small station. A few people got off, and a few new passengers came on. A mother with a child, an older man with a briefcase, a young couple holding hands. The doors closed again with a quiet sound, and the train moved on. Outside, the landscape changed again. There were now forests, rivers, and small bridges. The sunlight touched the tops of the trees, making them glow golden and green. Birds flew above the fields, and sometimes I could see cows standing lazily near the fences. The sound of the train was steady and comforting. It reminded me of my childhood when I used to travel with my parents by train. Every summer I remembered how I would sit by the window, counting trees or watching clouds, waiting for the next station. The world outside was waking up now. In some places, people were already working in the fields. In others, children were walking to school, their backpacks bright against the soft morning light. I noticed how every scene outside the window looked like a painting, calm, slow, full of quiet beauty. The movement of the train made it all flow like a movie, one moment blending gently into another. The woman with the red hair finished her coffee and began writing in a small notebook. The man with the newspaper folded it neatly and looked out the window too. For a moment, we were all doing the same thing. Watching, thinking, simply being. The train passed over a bridge below. A river moved slowly, shining like glass in the morning light. The reflection of the sky and trees made it look endless. I watched until it disappeared behind the next hill. Inside the carriage, everything felt calm. The seats were soft. The air smelled faintly of coffee and metal, and the quiet voices of a few passengers mixed with the sound of the train. I took a small notebook from my bag, the one I always carried. I liked to write short notes during trips. Small details I didn't want to forget, I wrote. Soft light over the fields, mist like silk. The sound of the train feels like breathing. Writing made me notice things more deeply. The way light moved across the floor, the way the train curved slightly on the tracks, the shadows on the faces of people reading or dreaming. The morning grew brighter. The sky turned from silver to pale blue. The train passed another village, small houses, a bakery, a man delivering bread on his bicycle. A dog barked somewhere near the station as we passed by. I smiled to myself. There was something beautiful about seeing these short glimpses of other lives, moments that lasted only seconds but stayed in your mind. After a while, the conductor walked through the carriage, checking tickets. His uniform was neat, his face kind but serious. He moved quietly, like someone who had done this job for many years and still liked the routine of it. When he left, the woman in front of me closed her notebook and rested her head against the seat. The man with the newspaper took out a small sandwich and ate it slowly. The student woke up and looked outside, blinking at the bright light. I continued to watch the world. The fields were wider now, stretching far to the horizon. The mist was gone, replaced by clear air and sunlight. A few birds flew beside the train for a short time, then turned away. I thought about where I was going, to the city, to meetings and noise, to people and plans. But for now, in this quiet moment between places, I felt free. There was no hurry, no pressure, just movement and calm. The train slowed again, stopping at another small station. The name on the sign was short and simple, a name I didn't know. A few people stepped off and one man got on, tall, with a suitcase and tired eyes. He sat near the door and looked out quietly. I wondered about him, where he came from, what kind of morning he had, what waited for him in the city. Every passenger, I thought, carried a story, and for a short time our stories touched. Just here, on this train. The train began to move again and the rhythm returned, that steady, soft music of wheels on rails. The sun climbed higher now, its light entered the carriage in thin, golden lines through the windows. Dust moved gently in the air, catching the light like tiny stars. The world outside seemed so open, so full of quiet promise. The trees by the tracks were full of birds, and I could see the first signs of a new season. Flowers on the grass, green leaves shining after the rain. I thought of how beautiful ordinary mornings could be. If only we looked at them closely, the world didn't need to be loud or dramatic to be full of meaning. Sometimes the softest sounds, the simplest views carried the most peace. The train crossed another bridge, this one longer below. The river was wider and small boats were tied along the bank. I could see fishermen setting up their lines, quiet and patient. I looked at my reflection in the window for a moment. My face, calm and thoughtful, mixed with the image of the moving fields behind me. It felt like two worlds overlapping, the inner and the outer, both in motion.
As the journey continued, the landscape slowly changed. Fields became suburbs. Suburbs became small towns. The houses grew closer together, and roads appeared more often. I knew we were getting closer to the city. Still, I wanted to stay in this quiet moment just a little longer. I wished the train could go slower, that the world could stretch this morning into forever. The woman with red hair stood up, collected her things, and smiled briefly at me before leaving at the next stop. Her seat stayed empty for a while, filled only with sunlight. The man with the newspaper closed his eyes. The student began to write something in his notebook. Maybe a song, maybe just thoughts.
We passed a field full of yellow flowers. The sight was sudden and bright. Like sunlight turned into color, I stared at it until it disappeared behind a hill. I thought about how often we rush through our days, missing small things like that. A field, a light, a reflection on water. Maybe that's why I like train rides so much. They slowed time down just enough to notice. The air in the carriage was warmer now. Someone opened a window slightly, and a soft breeze came in, carrying the smell of grass and metal. In the distance, I could already see the outlines of the city. Tall buildings, bridges, and roads. The closer we got, the more movement appeared. Cars, buses, people walking quickly on the streets. The quiet countryside faded behind us, replaced by the rhythm of urban life. Still, I held on to the calm of the journey, the stillness of the fields, the sound of the train that had carried me through the soft morning. The train slowed one last time. The speaker above us announced the city's name. People stood, stretched, gathered their things. The sound of movement filled the air again. Zippers, footsteps, quiet voices. I looked out the window once more. The sun now shone high above the city roofs, and the sky was bright and clear. The day had truly begun. As we entered the main station, I felt a small sadness, the kind you feel when something peaceful ends. But it was a good kind of sadness, full of quiet gratitude. The train stopped. The doors opened. I stepped out into the morning light, into the sound of the city, engines, voices, the rush of life. And for a brief moment, as I stood there with my bag in my hand, I still heard it, the soft rhythm of the train, echoing like a heartbeat, carrying the calm of the fields and the stillness of the mist inside me.